So, hello and welcome to this, the first edition of the podcast that attempts to distill the chaos of expertise, of opinion and taste into that most elegant of forms and what we're calling the definitive top three. So each episode, our guest, who is and will be a clear expert in the topic at hand, will lead us through their definitive top three, first explaining a little more about those that didn't make the cut, before unveiling their final list and the reasons why they've ended up with that particular top three. Now, this podcast, before we start, is brought to you by 3ology. 3ology is the board game that brings a competitive twist to the humble list. Please visit 3ology.fun for more information about that game. But without further ado, the topic on podcast number one. And as we record this podcast in mid-June 2025, it perhaps couldn't be a more relevant political or cultural topic to discuss, because we'll be looking in this definitive top three as to the three reasons why America has become so polarized. And now to our expert, Ryan Bernsten, based in Kansas City. Welcome, thank you for joining us. But before we start, I'm asking, the audience will no doubt be asking, why you? What's shaped your views and your insights en route to this particular definitive top three?
Well, thank you, Andrew. I think someone watching this video might see a youngish person, and say, what does he know about this topic? How could he understand the context that America is living in right now? And if you're listening, you can't see that I'm youngish, but I'm 33, and I took a trip when I was a grad student at University of Oxford as a part of my senior thesis project. And after working on the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016, I felt very disconnected from the story of America after waking up every day and talking to people from diverse backgrounds, from farmers in Iowa to Haitian immigrants in Florida. And I wanted to recreate that experience to understand what people on the ground are going through, as opposed to hearing it reported on through the news or see through my news feed what the story of America was. So I ended up traveling around the country, and I wrote a book called 50 States of Mind. Yes, I made it to all 50 states. I made a point of finding people that were different than anyone else I had talked to on the trip, to get as diverse of a perspective as possible. And this is the kicker, which is what I think sets me apart from other people who have been leaders in this space. I had no money on this trip. Oxford not giving big grants to researchers like me. So I stayed in people's homes. And it sounds like a little detail, but it is actually incredibly important, because when you're staying at someone's home, when you're eating at their dinner tables, you can't shout at them because then you'd be out of a place to stay. So I actually had the opportunity to sit down with people with whom I didn't originally think I would find common ground. And after a few glasses of beer, it was amazing, the not just common ground we found, but new ways of looking at this political moment that made me realize that we're all more on the same page than we think. And the last little bit of expertise I'll throw in is I now am the director of brand and partnerships at an organization called American Public Square. And I encourage all of you to check it out, because it is an amazing organization that is trying to rebuild communities here in America through having civil conversations moderated with fact-based, emotion-regulated methods. And so they bring in all sorts of experts, from Obama's campaign manager David Axelrod to conservative New York Times columnist Bret Stephens, and allows the community virtually from anywhere in the world or right here in Kansas City to interface with these experts. So the mission lives deep in me, and this book and this journey really changed how I view politics and made me believe that there are solutions to the things that are dividing us.
Well, I love that. And one of the reasons that I jumped at the opportunity, Ryan, of having you on as our very first guest, because this is such an important topic. And I remember, and I know that America suffers from this as well. The two coasts are very different from the centre. And I remember literally the morning after Brexit here in England, in the UK, when we were all completely incredulous, in parts of London in particular, that how could anybody possibly think it was a good idea to leave? And then when you went and actually